Hi, my name is John Prestel, founder of the Peace of Justice Organization and the Father's Care Movement. Our current mission is to build a coalition of 100,000 men and women to come together and change the laws to support healthy relationships between single fathers and their children. Currently, our laws do the exact opposite of that. If you're a single father who has been put through the family court system, then you know how difficult it is for a man to be prominent in the life of his child or children if the mother does not want you to be. The family court system makes it very easy for a mother to keep a father from seeing his child or children. I have experienced this myself, spending $30,000 in the family court system fighting to see my now 3-year-old daughter. I have slightly more time with my daughter than most men or most fathers who are put through the family court system, but I had to spend $30,000 to get that. No father should have to spend a fortune just to remain prominent in the life of his child. One of the problems with the family court system is that it focuses on the money rather than the relationship between the father and his child. Notice I did not say relationship between the child and the child's parents, because when it comes to the mothers, the family court system does focus on the relationship. Only between the mother and the child though, not between the father and the child. In the family court system, the relationship between the mother and child is a priority, urgently necessary. Whereas the relationship between the father and the child, well, that's treated as an elective. The role of a father in a child's life is equally important as the role of a mother in a child's life. Without either a father or a mother, a child experiences a significant void in their life. To understand this, you need only look around you and talk to some of the millions of people who grew up without a father. My father never knew his father. My paternal grandfather died when my father was just a baby. And even before becoming an adult, I recognized that void significantly affected my father. It affected him in a negative way. He always yearned for him. He yearned for his father. I yearned for my grandfather because I could see the void in my father, and I felt like I never had a whole father because of it. There was something missing. I felt like if my father had a father, he would have been a much better father to me and my brothers and sisters. Fathers are very important in the lives of their children. Yet, the family court system unapologetically sabotages and destroys relationships between fathers and their children day after day, year after year, decade after decade. In family court, fathers are treated as sperm donors rather than fathers. When fathers show up in court, it is assumed that they don't care, and they have to prove to the court that they love their child to have any chance of seeing their child. Whereas when a mother shows up in court, in family court, it is assumed that she does love her child. And unless she is proven to be an unfit mother, she is going to have primary custody of the child. Now, the law in Georgia says otherwise. The law in Georgia says that regarding child custody, there is no presumed preference toward the mother or the father. But the court should decide child custody based on the best interest of the child. For many years, courts decided child custody cases based on what's called the child of tender years doctrine. The tender years doctrine originated in the United States in the late 1800s, around 1880, 81, something like that. And essentially it stated that children should remain in their mother's care following a divorce. This was primarily due to the societal perception that mothers were best equipped to meet the child's needs. Now, this doctrine was eventually challenged in the courts, and it was replaced with the best interest of the child standard. In addition, most states have passed laws that state that there is no presumed preference toward the mother or the father when deciding child custody. The problem with the laws that supposedly replaced the unconstitutional tender years doctrine is that in many states, like Georgia, the tender years doctrine is still the unwritten rule. It is the unwritten rule that the courts defer to. And when an unwritten rule is stronger than the written rule, that supposedly replaced it, then the unwritten rule wins. That is why we need a stronger written rule, a stronger law than what we have now, that will deem the unwritten rule ineffective. We need a law that states that in deciding child custody, the court must presume that the father and mother will share 50-50 joint legal and physical custody. And the law should require that only specific circumstances allow for the court to deviate from that presumption. For example, geographic constraints. If the parents live 100 miles apart, well then 50-50 joint physical custody would likely not be feasible. However, in that case, the priority concern of the court should be, and would be, to maximize the amount of time the child spends with each parent to the extent possible. Now, some mothers argue that 50-50 joint physical custody is not good for the child. Well, divorce is not good for the child. The fact is that half of marriages in the U.S. end in divorce. That is our reality. Half of the marriages in the United States end in divorce. What the family court system does is make a less than ideal situation worse. It's not ideal for two parents to get divorced, but what the family court system does is make a less than ideal situation worse. There's no way that a father spending less time with their child after a failed relationship is better than a child spending more time with their child after a failed relationship, unless that father is neglectful or abusive. That would be the one exception. After a failed relationship, a new normal is established for all parties involved. An adjustment is made by all parties involved. I grew up as a military kid, a military brat, moving every 3 years or so. That was my normal. Starting at a new school every 3 years, making new friends every 3 years, not being from anywhere, but instead being from all over the place. That was my normal. To this day, when people ask me, where am I from? I say I'm from all over the place because I grew up in the military. And some people ask me, sometimes they ask me, well, how did I like that? How did you like that? Growing up, moving every 3 years, having to make new friends every 3 years, going to a new school every 3 years. How'd you like that? Well, and I respond to them that I actually liked it, except for the very last part of it when I had to go to 3 different high schools. I didn't like that very much. But I even adjusted to that and ended up getting a football scholarship because of it. Because the school that I finally landed at, the third school I landed at, was a perfect environment for me to grow as an athlete and earn a scholarship. A child moving around as much as I did growing up is not ideal. But in my case, it was necessary. My father was a soldier. So moving often was my normal. There were pros and cons to it. For a child of a failed relationship in a 50-50 joint physical custody arrangement, it is not ideal, but it will be their normal. And there will be pros and cons to it. My ex-wife and I, we separated when our daughter was about 2 years old. So all she knows is daddy's house and mommy's house. She knows that they are two separate places. That is her normal. Where both parents are willing, a 50-50 joint physical custody arrangement works just fine. I have seen it done. The problem is that there are many mothers out there who are not willing to do it, and their reason is money. Not all mothers, but there are many mothers out there who are not willing to do it, and their reason is money. It doesn't have anything to do with it not being good for the child. It's all about money. Because under current law, they are guaranteed to receive more child support from a father if the father sees the child less than 50% of the time. The mother of my child told her lawyer to pursue me seeing my daughter for the least amount of time possible and paying the most amount possible in child support. Again, the mother of my child told her lawyer to pursue having me see my daughter, for the least amount of time possible and paying the most amount possible in child support. So when you hear that, what do you presume is her primary interest? Child's best interest or money? The child's best interest or money? She said that she wanted me to have the least amount of time possible with our daughter and pay the most possible in child support. That is what she told her attorney. Now, I could cite statistics all day that support my position on 50-50 joint physical custody. However, those who are in opposition can cite statistics to support their position. There's a popular saying that you have lies, you have damn lies, and you have statistics. With Google, you can find stats that support whatever you want to support. So to me, statistics are worthless on this issue of who's a better primary custodian for a child. What I think is much more relevant is real life experiences. And in real life, I believe that the parent who is a strong proponent of the child being equally close to both parents should be the primary custodian. My ex-wife is a daddy's girl. When we first met, she made that clear to me. She told me that her daddy could do no wrong. She and her father are extremely close, and she places a very high value on their relationship. Yet, she told her lawyer to work to have me spend the least amount of time possible with our daughter. This is the mother, my ex-wife, who is extremely close to her father, but does not want our daughter to be remotely close to me. Can anyone say with a straight face that a mother who takes that position has the best interest of the child at heart? In real life, I went to every doctor appointment leading up to the birth of our daughter, except for the first one when my ex-wife found out that she was pregnant. In real life, when we brought our daughter home, my ex-wife wanted to have her sleep alone in her own room. In real life, I had the parental instincts to object to that absurdity. In real life, I slept on the floor next to the crib of my newborn baby rather than leave my newborn baby alone overnight at 3 days old. In real life, I slept on that floor next to our daughter's crib until my ex-wife agreed to have her sleep in our room in the bassinet on my side of the bed. In real life, I took off 6 weeks of work when my daughter was born. In real life, my ex-wife went back to work 1 week before I did, after the birth of our daughter. 1 week before I did. I wanted some extra time to bond with our daughter, so I took off that extra week to have that time with her. And I'm not the only father out here who is dedicated to being a great father. There are millions of us that statistics do not report on. As I've stated, I'm building a coalition of 100,000 men and women committed to changing the laws to support healthy relationships between single fathers and their children. We want 50-50 joint physical custody as a starting point in the court of law. We want the law to be written such that when deciding child custody, the court will presume 50-50 physical custody, and the law should be written to require specific circumstances in order to deviate from that. We also want the option of having our child custody cases decided by a jury. Currently in Georgia, child custody cases are decided by a judge, and 80% of child support cases are decided in the mother's favor. For decades, judges have shown that they are biased in favor of mothers. Single fathers want the option of having our child custody cases decided by a jury. There's an old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It does indeed take a village to raise a child, and the village should have a say. In court, the jury is the village. A jury will do a much better job of being fair and just. In a child custody case, if you hire an attorney, when that attorney finds out who the presiding judge will be, that attorney can tell you the tendencies of that particular judge. That attorney can summarize that judge's judicial philosophy on child custody cases and predict how that judge will rule on a given set of circumstances. Your circumstances. That is a problem. The judges who have clearly shown that they are biased in favor of mothers should have the child custody decision taken out of their hands. Single fathers should have the option of going before a jury. Additionally, it should be a requirement that the jury be made up of half women and half men, and that it be culturally diverse. A white father's child custody case should not be decided by an all-black jury. An Asian father's child custody case should not be decided by an all-Hispanic jury. Gender and cultural diversity on the jury will make for a smarter decision. I recently heard a contributor on CNN say that diverse groups make smarter decisions. I believe that. I believe that when leaving the decision in the hands of one judge, the likelihood of a horrendous decision dramatically increases. And we have seen decades of evidence of that. We want the option to have our child custody cases that go to court to be decided by a jury. There's much more to talk about, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. I'll drill down further on these issues in upcoming videos. Please go to my website, peaceofjustice.org, that's peaceofjustice.org, P-E-A-C-E of justice.org, and sign up to join the coalition of 100,000 to support the Father's Care movement. You can also get there through peaceofjustice.com, that's P-E-A-C-E of justice.com, and again, please join the movement, the coalition of 100,000 men and women to support the Father's Care movement. Through the love that we have for our children, we will achieve justice for single fathers. Join us. Let's get moving. Mix it up.
Okay. I am mixing. Mix slow. Fast. I'm doing fast. Look me.
I see.
Do fast, Daddy.
Okay.
I'm doing it.
What you making?
Cornbread.
Oh, good. It's gonna be delicious.
Slow. We're doing slow, Daddy.
Yeah, slow.
It's fast. It's slow. It's fast. We're doing it together in present, so. Slow.
You finished?
Not yet. More milk.
More milk. You think it needs more milk?
Yeah.
How much more?
2.
1.
1.
1 and 2.
3.
3? I thought you said 2.
3.
Okay, 3. 3.
3.
There you go.
Faster.
No, you don't want to do it too fast.
Okay. Mix now. Think there's some more sugar.
No, there's enough sugar. We put enough sugar.
Oh.
You ready to put it in the oven?
Yes.
All right, let's put it in the oven.
I take it.
I think it might be a little bit too heavy for you.
Oh.
Can you pick it up? I think it's a little bit too heavy for you.
And it's perfect.
Did you make that cornbread?
Yes.
Was it good?
Yes.
Delicious. Yum, 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 yum. Yum. Ah, that's my piece. Don't be licking my piece. You ate yours already.
Yeah. I won.
Good job.